This is lesson 11 for metal technology. If you're following along in your book, it's chapter 26, pages 403 to 434. This is over the metal lathe. L-A-T-H-E is lathe. The lathe is a machine that rotates a workpiece while a stationary cutting tool is forced against it. When you are operating the lathe, what you will do is you will take your project and you will put it somewhere in here. So this is a little bit different than the machines that we have in our class, but your project is going to go in here, and then what's going to happen is the machine is going to be turned on and your project will start spinning. So this is different from a lot of our other tools to where the cutting tool actually turns. This one is different. So my project is going to spin and my cutting tools, like you see here or here, will not spin. Those are going to stay stationary. You're just going to push those up against the project as it's moving. When you are operating a lathe, the process is called turning. The reason it's called turning is because your project is actually turning and rotating compared to the cutting tool staying stationary. Lathes are measured by something called the swing. So the largest diameter, so I've got this graphic here, the largest diameter that can be turned over the ways on a lathe are the swing. So that's also how they're sized. The lathe bed is a picture down here. On the lathe bed, you have these guides. These are the bed ways. These things are really important. They need to stay really good and clean. They need to be oiled frequently, so your machine parts can slide on them. If you look up here, all of these things are attached to the lathe bed, so they slide on them. You can tighten them down so they don't move, like this thing up here is called the tailstock. If you tighten this part down right where my cursor is, it will not move. If you did not have a lathe bed, all you would have is just a bunch of lathe parts just kind of laying around. So everything is going to slide onto this and glide on the lathe bed. The headstock is this portion up here of the lathe. This is where all the gears are. When you change gears, like you change gears in your car, you hear your transmission shifting, you will notice that the car is going to increase speed or decrease speed based upon what gear you are in. Same type of a thing with the lathe. So the headstock up here is going to contain all those different gears. This next part down is something called the tailstock. So again, this tailstock here, this is the thing that's going to slide onto the lathe bed, so it would fit onto like this portion down here. You're going to be able to turn this knob, and this part's going to go in or out based upon the direction in which your knob is turned. So the tailstock mounts on the ways to support the work between the centers. We are going to use the tailstock in this class to drill a hole into our screwdriver handle. The carriage, this piece here in the middle of this lathe pictured, it's a part of the lathe that controls and supports of the cutting tool. The carriage can be moved left and right based upon which way these knobs are turned, and the cutting tool is going to go in and out based upon kind of what you see here on this knob as well. So you can move them left and right and in and out based upon which way you turn these knobs or this knob on the carriage. There's two big things in lathe work or machine work. They're called cutting speeds and feeds. Cutting speed is the rate at which the work is rotating. So when you turn the machine on, how fast is your project being spun? So we just put a picture of a tachometer over here just to show you how fast something is spinning. It's just a gauge. So we have something that's moving and spinning and turning. That is the speed. The next one is the feed. So the feed would just be what rate do you put your cutting tool in or on your project. So the difference is this one's how fast the thing is moving, and this is how fast you are putting your cutting tool onto the project. On your screwdriver blade, or excuse me, your screwdriver handle that you will make, you're going to do something called facing. You're going to have to face both sides. This is a picture of a lathe with a piece of an aluminum or stock inserted, and all they're doing is just cutting the end off. So they're just going to make the end really nice and flat and smooth. You will do, again, both sides of your screwdriver handle. You want to make both sides really flat. So as this is moving, as this is spinning, your cutting tool is just going to go straight across, and it's going to perform your cuts. Chucking, if you don't chuck your project correctly, it will fly out. So this person up here is holding what's called the chuck key. The chuck key is really, really important. You want to make sure that when you use your chuck key, you tighten your project down, and then you remove it immediately after use. So you take this thing out immediately after you use it, and then you can start your machine. Do not ever start your machine with this in the chuck. So down here would be the project or whatever it is that you are going to turn. So that's going to wrap up lesson 11. You need to describe for me what turning is and how can the lathe be used in a real world application. So figure something out, come up with an idea. If you have any questions, you can always stop by and talk to me. Don't forget to do your lesson 11 workbook assignment. That's it for lesson 11.